Hello, Gomez here from the LAN Up channel. We've just got the patch notes. I've had a quick little glance through them. I mean, it was a lot more than I was expecting. So let's quickly get in and go through the patch notes and all the changes that come, because exciting times. Let's do this. So as I said, yeah, this is the patch notes of 1.14. We were expecting them to make a few changes, but nowhere near especially the amount of champ changes that they've made. Magnificent, and I will get onto them as we get through. Obviously, like all the changes that are being made is because they've got the tournament coming up very soon. So it's nice they want to get those out first, and it means there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing. People are going to be changing their decks around a lot for that tournament, which is going to be funny. A really lovely thing that they are doing, so obviously as it says here, they're bringing new labs. Spectator mode is a magnificent thing, but we will get to that when we get to the widget, we get to the changes, as well as the widget, the champions, and the fact that they're actually going to be doing meta widget snapshots they're going to be sharing people. Obviously there were actually places that you could already get that, like Mobalytics. There were several different sites that gave you snapshots, as well as the widget Team Aretuza, which is the team that I'm a part of. Their website as well did meta snapshots, so it's nice to see that they're actually breaking it down, and they're going to be breaking it down, the decks that are used within the different things like Platinum, Diamond, Masters, and all the regions, as well as the fact, so yeah, it's going through literally every little bit that which is happening. And so they've given you the first meta snapshots, but it's the fact that they are going to be doing this going forward is a really nice thing, so that people can see patch by patch kind of what the changes have implemented, how the meta is shaken up, whether it gives them also the chance to see what is still staying continuous throughout, and whether or not there needs to be any nerfs within those decks, or whether or not like, you know, there's certain decks which aren't doing as well, or you're not seeing certain champions within decks. Kind of, you want kind of a mixed bag between a few different things. So if you're just seeing continuously, like, let's admit, like Trundle has been big so far. So that's why we'll get down to what's happened with Trundle in a little bit. But literally, it's really good that they're going to be doing this. And it means that, like, you know, anyone can look at the patch notes and can see, and they include the deck codes, the percentage, the win chances and whatnot. This is when it tells you when these things were active and whatnot. So obviously this is from, like, you know, from the 2nd of November. We're currently on the 10th, so technically these are still quite relevant at this moment in time, and those win critique. But I mean, obviously with these changes things will be changing, but let's quickly get ourselves actually into the main juice of this thing, which is the card updates. Now these are actually some really amazing things, and then we'll go down one by one. Okay, number one is the fact that Lucian's thing can now trigger on the same time as his level up. Now it's very important, because as they've said here, it does actually because they've actually done the same with Jinx, because before it used to be that there'd be a turn, so with Jinx you would discard you discard all the cards, then you have to wait till next turn, she then draws 2 cards, and then you've got to get rid of those before you can get your first bomb. We will actually get to. I should probably just speak about Jinx when we get to Jinx. Let's talk about Lucian. Lucian's the main man here at the moment. So the fact that when you could have it so that everything would die, and then in the attack, so you'd put Lucian at the end, you'd put all these little things in front of him, potentially ephemeral things, so that they were going in, attacking, or if they were being blocked, dying, and then Lucian would level up. Now the thing of it is that yes, he gets his double attack, which is really good, but he didn't actually rally immediately, whereas now it gives you the ability to rally, which actually makes Lucian far more formidable than what he used to be, because obviously before it used to be, once he levels up, okay, crap, I've now got to deal with him, but you've actually got to deal with him even potentially like on that turn that he's leveling, because he then immediately gets another rally, he throws himself forward again, that's 8 damage, because remember that he's got double attack, that's 8 damage if unopposed, and so therefore it just actually leaves immediately, so that's like an immediate relentless pursuit, an immediate rally, and it's such an amazing thing. So I do actually like the fact that they've done this change. It just makes Lucian that far, as I said, a more formidable champion, especially when you consider the fact some of the champions they've got. But as I said, this change is similar to Jinx, but we'll get to Jinx later on. it's just to go with like the newer ones, because what you call it, so Soraka's function and Sejuani, because basically Sejuani on the turn that she leveled up could still actually do her ability of frostbiting everyone on that same turn. So field champions consistency, so they're releasing these changes since the new functionality feels which it feels like sufficient to testing. So yeah, so this is a really strong change for Lucian, and I'm expecting to see a little bit more because of the fact that fast decks have become quite a thing, especially with like scouts and things like that. Fast decks have become a thing. Lucian actually has said that additional ability to be able to rally on the same turn that he levels is actually magnificent. Shyvana, we had high hopes for her when she first came out, and admittedly still for formidable champion, but they've decided that because of the fact that which she doesn't seem to be getting as much play as she was, they've given her a buff, so they've buffed up her power, because obviously she started up on 3 power, and so they've now given her 4 power, and her level up's got 5, so it's a 4, which is a 4/4 for 4, so it's just increasing that value, and obviously when she attacks forward she becomes a 5/5, and then when she attacks forward in her leveled up form, she becomes a 7/7, so it's actually a lot more formidable stats, a lot more, I can see that little stat thing is obviously as I said, just increasing it so that when she attacks is immediately a 5/5 rather than 4/5 is magnificent, because of the fact that requires you to do something. 5 attack actually makes like so much difference in the late game, so, or like even like early game, sorry, in the early game it makes so much difference that you have to put answers out, you can't just let that go through. So it's actually really nice to see, as well as the fact that obviously she can now trade off with a few different things, but we'll get back to that. Vlad, my lad, he's had a little bit of, which he's actually seen a little bit of play. When Soraka first came out, he started seeing a little bit of more play, but I do like the change that they've done to him. So the change that they've done to Vlad is so that you can actually decide now. So obviously the old text just used to be that when you attack forward, he deals damage to everyone, and then that deals 1 damage to the Nexus. Now it's that which you can decide who's going to be taking damage. So everyone who's on the right of him is going to be taking 1 damage, and that's going to be doing damage to the enemy Nexus, whereas everyone on the left doesn't take damage. So obviously if you've got minions who have only got like 1 health, but you still want them to be hitting forward, because obviously what Vlad would do is that, because that deck is all about doing damage to your own minions anyway, some people would already be on 1 health, so when they attack forward with Vlad, Vlad is going to be killing them before they actually get to do their attack in. So there was no point in putting anything in defense of them, because you knew they were going to die anyway. And sometimes their stat block was just like you'd prefer to have that damage going in, or to trade off with. So allowing you to decide where it goes is a huge buff for Vlad, and I'm definitely, especially with Soraka, I can see him really kicking off, as well as the fact that they have actually decreased. So another buff is they have actually decreased. He used to have 6 people take damage. He now only has to have 5 enemies take damage. So yet again, quite a nice little stat line, little boost and whatnot. And remember that it is draining when he levels up. That damage is draining from the enemy Nexus. So really nice little change up to Vlad here. So all the changes that they've done so far really helping Lucian out. Lucian's gonna, I can see him get a lot more play. Shyvana, really good change up, because he's yet again, like she was a little bit underplayed. Vlad yet again underplayed, and so this just makes him a little bit more functional, as being able to decide where that damage goes is actually quite big. Trundle, now Trundelian, let's face it, he was devastated. He was literally in so many decks, and for good reason, because he was a good, like for his stats, he was something that could stay on the board, take the damage, heal himself back up again, especially when you have things like... So remember, even though he's got this nerf of going down to from 6 to 5 health, there's still troll chant and things in that deck, and that was what would get him over the top. So actually putting him into a slightly more fairer range is nice, so that it's not just he can just trade up. He also, now that puts him in the range of Shyvana being able to actually like basically kill him, whereas before, even in like even in this buffed up stage of her, she would not have been able to take care of Trundle. So actually the thing going, the stat line there and the stat line there is very nice. As I said, Trollchant is still a thing, so he can still potentially find his way around it, but it requires there to be a lot more trickiness to be done and not as easy. So it's a very good change that they've done, because he's not as sticky, because that's obviously what he was being used for. He was being used to be able to trade with the board, to be able to make it so you didn't want to do your attacks forward, because you had this like a 6 health stat thing that literally, if you didn't kill it, it was just going to regenerate those stats, and so you had to have tricks and whatnot in your hand to be able to do it or damage things. The other nice thing as well is they have actually reduced the health of the Ice Pillar, because the Ice Pillar is a very powerful thing, because it allows you to decide where Trundle's basically going to be hitting in, especially with that overwhelm damage, or not even Trundle. You can remove, because remember, it targets the strongest enemy. So literally, you could just throw that onto the iceberg and then just let Trundle attack forward with like increasing damage, as well as the fact that that Ice Pillar is actually giving him extra stats. Because remember, it does grant him damage, so every single time. So that 8 stat was a little bit too much, so they decided to take it down to 6, which does make it fairer. It does mean that it's going to be able to not trade off as much, as well as the fact that when it's your attack turn, you can start getting that health down already yourself, in terms of like before with that 8 health block, you needed to basically hit into it at least twice to deal with it. At least now this brings that down to a fairer thing, and it means that they're less likely to be blocking with it as much. The Ice Pillar is not going to be blocking as much as it should be, but so it's a very nice little change up to Trundle here, because it still keeps him in the same kind of idea that he was in, but just changing those stats a little bit on both of his level up condition and his level up thing, and also his actual health in general is actually really good to be able to stop him from just being a sticky minion who's just going to stay on the board and countering. So this is very, very nice change, Trundle there. Ezreal, probably the biggest change that I've got to say that I'm really looking forward to. Ezreal so remember, he used to be target 8 enemies, and the thing with that was that it was very easy to pull off, and then obviously every single spell that he did was 2 damage, so he was actually really devastating the way that he was before. It's understandable they had to nerf him. They still wanted to keep him to have the condition that he had, so they put it up to 10, and what you need to understand is by putting that stat up to 10, it really limited where Ezreal could be played. My reason for saying that is because by putting him up to 10, yes, PNZ's got a number of targeting things, like as I said, obviously there's static, which hits 2, there's the barrage thing, which hits like 3 different people or whatnot, depending on like how you do. No, not barrage. What's the one where it does like 1 damage to one, 2 damage to another one, and 3 damage to another, whatever that one is. But I mean, it's a really rarely played spell, because it's a slow speed spell, so you don't really see it. But what I mean is, PNZ didn't have too much in that. Obviously, every single time that Ezreal attacks forward, he makes a mystic shot, so you could actually make it up through that. But literally, the only place with 10, by him having to attack 10 times, the only places that you were really seeing him getting played was in Bilgewater, because Bilgewater has Make It Rain, which is 3 targets, and Riptide Rex obviously counted as 7 targets. So that was really where you were seeing him getting played. Obviously, you had him with Karma as well, because Karma has always worked well with him. But what I really like about the way that they've changed him, so the way that Ezreal is now changed is he only has to target 6, so that's a big decrease. He only has to target 6 enemies during the game. Bearing in mind that I think that this opens him up to some quite nice little things. I will get into them in a little bit. But yes, and now his level up condition is that when you strike the Nexus, the same as always, you get a Mystic Shot. But when you cast a spell, it deals 1 damage. So any of your burst speed spells are only doing 1 damage rather than 2 damage. And if you targeted an enemy, deal 2 damage to the Nexus instead. So it's actually forcing you to have to use that damage to go into enemies if you want to get that increased stat. So why this is very important. The fact that it's gone down now means that there is more chances to go for different things, like in terms of right. Shadow Isles now becomes very viable with Ezreal, especially with Go Hard, because literally every single time that you're targeting somebody, that Go Hard is doing damage, it's getting a target, and then when it becomes Pack Your Bags, that's 5 damage to everything, as well as the fact that a leveled up Ezreal is then also going to be doing damage to that enemy Nexus as well. And also, as I said, the Go Hards are going to be doing 2 damage, like every single time that you target with Go Hard, it's going to be doing 2. So it opens up play there. It opens up play for like a Yasuo. Yasuo's got a lot of targety things, Steel Tempest, Concussive, like so Ionia becomes like a really nice little thing here. Freljord with Ice, with the Frostbites, because the Frostbites are still burst speed. So literally Ashe and Ezreal used to be, Ashe, Ezreal and Elnux used to be a really big thing, but Ashe Ezreal now potentially has a really good chance of coming back, especially with that. I said like he doesn't have to as hit as or target as many, and you need to remember that the target does class for units things as well. So that means that Sentry Spider's stun still counts for Ezreal. So potentially you could see some Noxus with Ezreal again, like because I know that obviously for a time I think there was like a Swain Ezreal deck or something like that, or like it opens the possibility for Swain Ezreal again. As well as the fact that obviously going back to where was I saying? Was it Fred? Where the hell I was saying? I can't remember what the hell I've said right now. But basically, this is an amazing thing because it actually opens him to be put into a lot more regions than what he could be, because Bilgewater was really his only home when he went up to 10. So it's very nice. This is actually like a big opener, and I can't wait to make so many Ezreal decks right now, because Ezreal used to be one of my favourite champions, and so the fact that he's actually now playable, he's actually in a far more kind of like fair way. I don't know whether or not we might eventually see a change happen again to this, because still this does open him up to Karma. So Karma Ezreal is always going to be powerful, and so the fact that literally so you can still get it, so every spell that you do is still going to be doing 1 damage to the enemy core, and there is ways of like getting a significant amount of spells. So I'm really happy with this change personally, because it basically, once he went up to 10, you really saw Ezreal drop off the map, and so this is him coming back on in a really nice way. I like the way they've recreated him. Jinx is the same as what's his face, as Lucian. I don't know why they didn't just put them both next to each other, considering the fact that Jinx actually gets mentioned in this one. I don't know why you just don't put it underneath it directly, but either way, Jinx is the same as Lucian. She can now, say for the full story, go up to Lucian. The second that you open the second that you empty your hand and levels up, she still won't create the super mega bomb right away. You have to empty it, but the chance of it happening on the same turn, right? So this is important because so basically it's not immediately as soon as you empty your hand, but the ability to be able to do it. So because obviously certain ways of leveling her up were to use Rummage, because Rummage obviously would get rid of 2 things, level her up, but now you can play those things and get the bomb. So actually, as the fact that she can get the bomb on the same turn as her level up is actually amazing. So yet again, it's a really nice little way of using it, because otherwise you had to wait and then draw draw 2 cards, and then so it was basically a little thing that gave, which it's just very nice to open her up to a little bit more. I do apologize, I'm talking bollocks. Taric is amazing, because the fact that they've now increased his power, just making him a little bit more viable, because yet again, Taric is somebody you're not really seeing too much of, but with Out the Way, Taric becomes more powerful, because obviously once Out the Way is on the board, Taric's actual support thing means that he is actually giving significant buffs, because he's making his supported thing can't die. So I do like the way, because obviously Taric yet again, like all of these, so Taric, Ezreal, Vlad, Shyvana and Lucian is really nice buffs, because these were champions that kind of hadn't seen much, like they kind of went a little bit under the radar, and so it's nice to see that it's giving them a boost. Jinx obviously was always there with discard aggro. Discard aggro has always been big, so this has actually just made discard aggro that a bit more stronger, depending on how if you can empty the hand at the same time, and just putting Trundle down so it's just a little bit less powerful. So actually, all in all, really good changes to those champions in my opinion. Really really good changes. Now we're getting into some of the other things. Crown Guard, it's basically just putting her in the same kind of stat level, because obviously there's a lot of things in different regions where the 8 drops are so powerful. Like, you know, you got Captain Falcon, or whatever his name is. Falcon Punch is all I always say. But him giving you decimates for 8 cost. You've got Riptide Rex in Bilgewater. You've got whatever the hell else in all the other regions. The 8 cost slot is actually really powerful, and so it's just giving her that additional bit that it makes her like an end game thing, like a finisher, as it says here, to give her the ability of finisher, so that she's not only rallying, she's also getting those additional stats in there as well as the fact that she was already tough. So just because I think that they weren't seeing much Crown Guard play, so they kind of want to put Crown Guard, like let her get a little bit more play in that 8 cost slot. It's a really powerful effect. Her rally is magnificent on its own, and to be fair, the 7/7 stat line was not actually bad, especially when you consider the fact she's got tough. So that wasn't actually that bad, but I can see that they want to kind of bring her in region in line with all the other cover 8 slots across the way and across the borders in all the different regions. So yeah, they've just done that. I don't really mind that change at all. Stones taking a health image, considering the fact that this is such a prevalent thing, or at least it is at the moment with Trundle the way that he was. The ramp and whatnot is very big, so actually taking that down a peg, so that it means that is now within range of certain spells that it used to not be in range of. So Grasp of the Undying, Get Excited. Literally, it's put the stones in range of so many removals that it wasn't in range of before. So that's actually amazing, because slowing down, because a ramp deck, if it ramps up fast enough, there is literally no stopping it, as we've seen with Feel the Rush and with War Mothers. The second that you can ramp up, I mean, admittedly, sneak little shout out to Passage Unearned, or Unearned Passage. Amazing card. Had the ability to counter it, but not much else could. Obviously deny, I guess, but still. Fuzzy Caretaker, his cost is going down, but his health is also going down. Bearing in mind, though, that if he is supported, he does actually go up to 5 health anyway, so it's not exactly the worst kind of thing. I think this is just to see him get a little bit more play. He wasn't getting much play on the 4 slot, because obviously it's just, by the time that kind of deck, especially with Lulu, if you're running a Lulu deck, which immediately I said, like, oh, this potentially is for a Lulu Tarek, like, to open those kind of things up. That stat line kind of makes it a little bit more playable. Sorry, not stat line, the cost makes it a little bit more playable, because you want to be playing that as early as possible, whereas 4 was just a little bit too long to wait. So it is nice to see that that's just coming down in cost, considering the fact that Ionia doesn't really have too much early game. It's very nice to see that they're just putting the stats down, just adjusting it to make that see a little bit more play. Swiftfoot, actually giving her the keyword of quick attack, so she does indeed live up to her name of Swiftfoot, is devastating. I guess that they've done this, and they've also put her power and health up. I think that because she costs 9, don't get me wrong, her ability of recalling free enemies is powerful of its own. But when you consider the fact that was in the same slot as, like, 9 cost, I mean, it was in the same cost as like, what's his name, old Commander Ledros and things like along those lines. Ledros, Dreadway for Bilgewater, which does like double, but like it's quite nice to see that they've actually given that little bit of a stat boost, as well as the fact that she is actually now living up to her swift-footed name and does have quick attack, which does just mean that she is a force to be reckoned with, like the same as those other things that were mentioned. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like you might see a little bit more play of her with that, because it just basically is such a massive stat line late game. So potentially Yasuo coming back into the field with cards such as this can really help that out, as well as I said with Ezreal. But we'll see whether or not those. I'm going to do some experimenting. Funsmith just going down in cost as well as going down in power, just to get a little bit more play, because obviously 5 yet again was a lot to play, and especially when you consider the fact that a lot of your spells and skills are quite lower cost, to actually have to wait until 5 to play her for that benefit of getting the additional thing. I feel like it's much more, she feels much more nicer in the 4-cost slot. So yeah, we'll see whether or not that actually means that you're going to see more play off of her, because literally, yet again, it's kind of a card that you haven't seen too much. There's been the odd little fringe deck that's been running it, but actually this might open it up with that cost, just to, because obviously her attack is not really important. The importance is what she does with giving the skills and spells extra damage. That's the more important bit of this deck. So Funsmith, especially with Ezreal, meaning that Ezreal's thing technically goes back up to a 2 if this is on the board, right? Technically, because it says skills and spells, so technically that's a skill on Ezreal where he goes, it goes to 1, and that's so potentially actually getting, as you can see, a combo already happening with those cards. Black Spear, it's changing from doing 3 damage to 4 damage. It still has to require a unit dying, but in Shadow Isles, that's not really an issue. So the good thing about this is, well, this is a slight buff to Callista, as it says, because this is Callista's spell. So the fact that it's going to be doing 4 damage, especially in Shadow Isles decks, and especially with Callista, because Callista's whole thing is about trying to kill off your allies so that you can level her up. This is just a very nice little thing. And 4 damage, it is if it's still 3 cost with a condition, but 4 damage just means that you can snipe off a few things which were a little bit out of its range before. So it's very nice to see this little buff, considering the fact, when you consider the fact that Noxus has got a 1 mana deal 4 damage to an injured or stunned enemy. This is just a very nice little accompaniment, which means that you can definitely, as it says, it strengthens the removal of Shadow Isles. Don't get me wrong, Shadow Isles has actually got a lovely bit of removal when it comes to Withering Wail, Grasp of the Undying, Ruination, and Unspeakable Horror and Vile. So this is just giving it a nice little bit of additional damage. Riptide Rex, I think what everyone was asking for, everyone at one point really wanted a nerf to Riptide Rex. I didn't actually mind Riptide Rex personally, but the developers have heard the call, and they have just put down, so it used to be 7, it's put it down to 6. This is very important because that means that it opens you to be able to do, so obviously, because that used to basically get the spells on the board, the maximum spells would go up massively, and then you can only really tack on a few different ones, whereas now you can tack on a few different more, so you can do some denies, you can do some, because I can't actually remember, why am I doing that? I can't do that, it's not the game. I can't remember what the cost is of that, so technically I can't remember whether or not Nopify can actually stop it back, but you get what I mean. It's meaning that you can actually be a lot more reactive to the fact that the barrages has come onto the board, so it's actually a very important change. And the health stat on the Eclipse Dragon, already a powerful dragon with its ability of Daybreak and with Nightfall, both seeing play in some form or another, because obviously the ability to get the next dragon's cost down by 2, as well as the fact that it can create a random dragon or Algia and Celestial on its Nightfall, was already devastating enough, but they've decided to give it additional health stats, Eclipse Dragon, overwhelming lack of in which could intimidation in the game, so just giving it that little bit more is very nice. So it then goes on to the fact that there's going to be the new lab, which is going to be very interesting. I do always love playing the new labs and whatnot, so it'd be very interesting to see. So if the deck contains no so it's different things, so all odd cards, all even cards, no followers, and all commons, and it's giving you different stats that kind of work between that. So this is actually quite interesting to see how which one will be the best, and who would what are you going to build your deck around. So that's actually quite an interesting thing. I might experiment in that lab. Gauntlet, yeah, again, is going to best, which is doing the best of 3. Gauntlet's obviously getting you closer to that prime, prime glory, so that you can potentially get into the tournament. Yeah, again, very nice. Spectator mode. I think everyone's been waiting for spectator mode for such a long time, so it's amazing to see the spectator mode. As they've said, there's still the initial implementation, so they've still got a few different things that they need to change, like bugs and things on those lines. But the fact that you can use Oracle's Eye, card details, and most importantly, petting the Guardian, so the person spectating can pet your Guardian, which is funny in its own. But as they did say, it's in its early stages. But this just opens up a lot more for tournaments. The fact that obviously, because before you had to make sure that the person who was playing was sharing their screen, you had to basically have the sharing screen thing. So to actually have that in-game, I mean, Gomez has already said that there's going to be tournaments planned for this channel, and there will be. I will be, as well as giving these away in December. I've got actually a trophy trophy set up with the Twisted Fate cards that I will be doing where when I run tournaments, there'll be a little bit of a cash prize, but also an actual trophy that you can win when there are the LAN up tournaments. So that's something to really look forward to. And then it just goes in yet again with Expedition. Like they're always changing Expedition. Expedition is such an underrated mode. It's amazing. But it's telling you like kind of like what cards have been removed, what cards have been added. Really good times, and then just like a miscellaneous, so just like a little bit of polishing up leaderboards, which are like imported decks immediately, which are now immediately renameable. But yeah, no, obviously the big thing, so many card changes. This has actually been a massive patch, loads of different things. I'm so excited, I can't wait. The experimentation which this now means, especially with champions which weren't seeing as much play, it just gives so much fun and games. So I cannot wait to be experimenting with that. But please let me know what you guys think about these changes. Let me know in the comment section. Is there any changes you don't like? Is there any changes you love? Is there things that you think they could have done differently? Because honestly, I do actually like what they've done personally, but it's always what you guys think is also important. I love hearing back from you guys, the feedback. So please feel free to comment. If you've liked this and want to see more content and whatnot, please make sure that you hit that subscription button. I do have a goal where I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, or 1,000 followers on Twitch by the end of the year. So if you want to help with that, I do stream on Twitch on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So shameless plug time. Those are the socials like Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to help me out on those goals, please feel free to. The actual amount of overwhelming support that I've already received is amazing. We're getting really close on Twitch because we're already up to 920, and on YouTube we're on like 820. So we're getting really close to that end of year goal, which I said if I achieve one of them or both of them, I'm gonna have to do something special. So thank you all so much. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If there's any, I said like, well, let's go big face mode. If there's anything, as I said, that you guys want to say, or which it said, especially when it comes to catching the action live on Twitch, which it said you can duel me, decks, deck suggestions, anything like that, always up for those things. But anyway, this is actually become a much more longer video than what I anticipated it to be. But thank you all so much, and until next time, bye. I said don't you do it! Okay. Is there literally anything that I could draw or that I could get from Flash of Brilliance that could save me? Save me! That doesn't save me! Okay. Is there anything from you? Save me. That doesn't save me! Okay. Get rid of this and get rid of this. Find something that can save me.